break out. The British objective was clear: to depose the Sultan and install a more compliant ruler. Once the military action began, there was no real resistance to the British advance. They faced little organized opposition, and the Sultan's escape attempt only highlighted the futility of the situation. Well, several factors contributed to the brevity of the conflict. The first was the overwhelming disparity in military might between the two sides. The British had access to modern weapons and communication systems that gave them a significant edge. It was a clash between two world powers, a microcosm of the broader struggle for dominance in Africa during the late 19th century. Firstly, it's always advisable to carefully consider the implications of accepting ultimatums. While the British ultimatum may have seemed like a difficult challenge, ignoring it led to a swift and brutal military intervention. Sometimes it's better to compromise than face the consequences of outright rejection. Secondly, the attempted coup in a wooden palace showed the importance of having a solid plan in place. Acting hastily without proper strategy can lead to disastrous outcomes, especially when facing a powerful adversary like the British. And lastly, the Sultan's escape attempt through a bathroom window serves as a reminder that desperation and lack of foresight can compound problems. In a moment of crisis, it's crucial to assess the risks and consequences of any action, no matter how unconventional it may seem. The war ended up being a humiliating defeat for the Sultan and his forces, but it also served as a demonstration of British military might and their growing influence in the region. It was a war that lasted less than your morning workout and still made it into the history books. Their ships and guns were capable of inflicting heavy damage from a distance. Meanwhile, the Sultan's forces were equipped with outdated weapons and were unable to effectively counter the British onslaught. The British had a well-trained and equipped army backed by a powerful navy. They were determined to assert their dominance in the region. On the other hand, the Sultan's forces were ill-prepared and poorly organized. They lacked basic military supplies and were not ready for a full-scale war. His idea was simple: stage a coup, proclaim himself the new Sultan, and hope for the best. By now, the British had landed troops and were advancing on the Sultan's palace. As the battle raged, the Sultan realized he was in trouble. His forces were no match for the British firepower and his escape route was blocked. But he had one last option: a bathroom window. On August 25, 1896, the Sultan's forces attacked the British consulate and other key buildings in Zanzibar town, but things didn't go according to plan. The attack was poorly coordinated and easily repelled. And soon the British were on the offensive. That's right. We are talking about a war that started and ended faster than some of our last Tinder dates. It only lasted for 38 minutes. And it turns out that this wasn't just some random skirmish or border dispute. Dressed in ordinary clothes, he tried to blend in with the crowd and escape unnoticed. But the British had him in their sights. They spotted the Sultan and opened fire. The Sultan collapsed, mortally wounded. He had survived the battle, but he would not survive for long. He died a few days later on August 29, 1896. No, this was a full-blown military engagement between two world powers. The war began on August 27, 1896. At 9:02 a.m. and ended at 9:40 a.m. Zanzibar is an island off the coast of Tanzania in East Africa. It has a rich history that dates back to the 7th century. But for our story, we need to fast forward to the late 19th century. During this time, the island was ruled by the Sultanate of Zanzibar. The British had already taken control of most of the mainland and they had their eyes set on Zanzibar. They wanted the island for two main reasons: its strategic location and its wealth. Zanzibar was a major trading hub with a thriving economy based on spices like cloves. The British wanted it for their expanding empire, and they weren't above using force to get it. By 1890, the British had established a protectorate over Zanzibar, which meant that although the Sultan nominally ruled the island, the British had significant influence over his policies. Tensions were high as many Zanzibaris resented the growing British control over their affairs. The situation came to a head in 1896 when the British demanded that the Sultan accept a British resident to oversee internal affairs. The Sultan saw this move as a direct threat to his authority and refused to comply. So then the British gave him an ultimatum: either accept the British resident or face military action. Now, usually, when someone gives you an ultimatum, it's probably best to just go along with it, but the Sultan chose to stand his ground. But while the British prepared for intervention, the Sultan hatched a plan. Let's take a closer look at the actual fighting. As the British closed in, the Sultan slipped out of the building through a small bathroom window. With the Sultan dead, the British installed a new puppet Sultan who was more amenable to their demands. Another reason for the quick resolution was the nature of the conflict itself. The speed of the conflict was also influenced by the tactics employed by both sides, and let's not forget the role of technology. In conclusion, the Anglo-Zanzibar War was a conflict marked by the imbalance of power, a lack of meaningful resistance, and the impact of superior technology. Now let's look at what we can learn from this conflict. The Anglo-Zanzibar War remains a historical curiosity, a tale of a conflict that defied expectations by wrapping up faster than you can say ceasefire. So what do you think? What's the most ridiculous historical event you've ever heard of? Share your thoughts below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.